Welcome back for another episode of Real Talk with me, Emma G. Today I am joined from LA dwelling, Chicago born, Atlanta somewhere in the middle, DC somewhere in the middle. You are the Chief Content Officer of UMC, Brett Dismuke. How are you doing? What's going on?
Listen, I am well considering everything that's going on in the world, but I have nothing to complain about. The health is good, the family is good, work is good. You know what I mean? So, I really appreciate you sharing your platform and having me on.
I mean, it's great to see your face. I met you like a million years ago. You ran away from DC, and then I stalked you to Atlanta, and now you're in LA. And so I'm just here doing my thing, trying to be like, hey, remember me?
You know what's funny about that? So I was only in DC shooting that movie. And so
what movie was that?
So it was called Couples Night.
I saw that.
Yes, and Couples Night is currently streaming on UMC, shameless plug. But I met Emma on the set of that movie. And at the time I was living in Atlanta, but we were shooting in DC temporarily. And then after my son graduated high school in Atlanta, I moved back to LA. So yeah.
You know what's really funny is I forgot that, of course you were here for Couples Night, because then you like one day were like, hey Emma, what are you doing? Yeah. I was literally in my pajamas. You're like, come through. And I think I was an extra in that, wasn't I?
Yes, but wait. I believe that was Kirk that invited you. I think that wasn't it Kirk? I think because I think it was Kirk, introduced us on set and was like, yo, she sings and bam, bam, bam.
That's right.
Yes, but he invited you to be the extra. And then we started talking about music, and then Atlanta, and then, and then somehow I became a tour guide across the country.
Yeah. The best tour guide. Let's be real. Atlanta is a phenomenal city with great history, and it's interesting. Like even still, I've been here for 5 years now, and I'm still kind of perplexed at how rich the history is here when it comes to and now of course we're living through history at the moment with this pandemic, and it's just insane.
So you know what? I don't think I really realized. So you've only been in the U.S. for 5 years?
Yep. It was 5 years in May.
So that means when I met you, you were like new here.
Uh-huh.
Because I've been back in LA for 3 years.
I know. That's what I say. You're like, you left me.
Wow.
You're like, hey, bye. What's up? Just kidding. JK lol. I'm gonna go away.
So wait, funny story. My son is now a college senior.
That's insane.
So that's how long it's been. Yep.
That's insane. Yep. Okay, well, all the catching up aside,
right.
For those who don't know you, and I put like a brief description in the description of this live stream, but for those who don't know you, who are you?
Oh my goodness. I am a young guy from the south side of Chicago, even though I'm a Cubs fan. That is Wrigley Field back there, because National League Baseball is the best. But anyway, I digress. I'm a young guy from Chicago that I fell in love with the music industry at a very early age. And I started writing songs, and I joined a group, and we were singing all around Chicago and entering into talent shows. But at the same time, I was enamored with the business side of the music industry. And so like, I used to try to figure out like, well, okay, so if this artist is going on tour and they're going to this many cities, and this is how many people can fill up the arenas in these cities, and then you minus insurance and security costs and travel, this is how much they could make. Like, this is what 13-year-olds should not be doing, I guess. I don't know. But so I decided that for college, because I really wanted to go into the music industry, I decided I had to go to either New York or LA. Mm-hmm. And because I was from Chicago, I was tired of the winter. So I picked LA. So I went to USC in Los Angeles, and not too long after I got there, I joined my fraternity. And it just so happens that Montel Jordan was a member of my fraternity, and he knew that I came to LA to go into the music business. And so soon after he got signed to Def Jam, he was like, I'm going to take you under my wing and take you to the studio so you can learn the ropes. And I went on, you know, a few of his promo tours and just really getting a hands-on, you know, hands-on experience within the business. And then that led to my first job. I was Michael Bivins and Steve Cook's intern at B.E.T / Motown Records. And then it you know, fast forwarding, I did a listening party inside of a kid's Foot Locker in a mall in LA, promoting the single "This Is How We Do It." Right. And the song hadn't been on the radio yet, and so it created enough buzz where people started calling 92.3 The B.E.T to request the song. And they were like, wow, how did you hear about it? And so that led to me getting a college rep job. Fast forward 10 years later. So I did 10 years in the music business, working at Motown, Polygram, Universal, Def Jam, and then Disney. And while I was at Hollywood Records, which is Disney owned, I was doing soundtracks. So I did Undercover Brother, Mission Impossible 2, Pootie Tang. Don't hold that against me.
I have seen that.
Have you seen Pootie Tang? Okay, so listen. Shout out to Chris Rock, but don't hold that against me. And then I did Say the Last Dance.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite movies growing up. That's amazing.
Listen. Well, I still know the steps. If you know Julia Stiles steps, then we could, okay. So
when we can like fly on planes again, I'm coming for you.
And so that kind of opened me up to the film side of the business. And then I left my job at Disney and I became an on-air radio personality in Phoenix. I did that for a little while and I didn't like it. And when I came back to LA, because of digital downloading, the music industry had completely changed and all of the labels had downsized. So there were no record label jobs to get. So I took my background, you know, which was marketing and sales and A&R and so on and so forth. And I applied that to the film industry. And I became a director of marketing for Urban Works Entertainment. And so after 10 years in music, I transitioned into film and television. And in that arena, I've done distribution, I've done production, I've done casting, and I've done development of scripts. And now I am running a subscription service. UMC is a Black subscription service that specializes in African-American content. And we cater to the Black female experience. And we are owned by the AMC networks. We were founded by Bob Johnson, but AMC networks came in November of 2018 and brought us into the family of networks. So there are 10 networks in total. And so that is a summary of my 26-year entertainment career in 4 minutes. Okay, great. Woo.
I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed that you managed to deduce that down to 4 minutes. That was, damn, you've done some shit.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit.
How much experience can you like fit into that 36-year-old body?
Well, let me say this. I'm not 36. but But I will say that it was funny because back in the day, Chuck D, who is most famous for being a part of the group
Public
Enemy,
Mm-hmm.
he did a solo record called The Autobiography of Chuck. And while that was going on, I was a college rep for Polygram. And so I had to take him to different campuses so that he could do speaking engagements.
Okay.
And we were riding in my car, and he said to me, he said, "Brother Brett," he said, "what do you want to do with your career?" And I said, "Well, actually, I want to run my own record label, and I want to be like Berry Gordy and be able to sign the artists that I want to sign and do the movies that I want to do." That was very important, right? And he said, "Okay." He looked at me, he said, "Writing, producing, and then singing and rapping are 3 jobs in the music industry." He said, "But there are 85 other jobs." He said, "If you want to run your own company, go find out what those other 85 jobs are." And I took that to heart. And so that's why, when people, when I talk to people and I tell them, yes, I've done artist development, I've done sales, I've done, marketing, I've done A&R. And in the film business, A&R is just acquisitions, and I've done development and casting and all these different things. It's so that I can understand what each department is supposed to be doing, and so that just gives me a better feel for what's supposed to be happening when all of our cylinders are clicking at the same time.
1,000%. No, I love it. And I was, it's funny that you bring up Chuck D, because I had James Bond on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I'm so annoyed that he didn't tell me about their latest single. Like, that's, have you heard it yet?
So I just heard I have not heard it. I heard about it yesterday.
Right. Well, you need to be doing some research there.
Absolutely. I gotta go check that out. Now here's the question though. It's a new Public Enemy song, but is Flav on the song?
No. Well, actually, no, he is. Flavor is. Yeah, apparently. So the article that I read is that Chuck D and Flavor, they
made up,
staged the beef to draw up, like publicity for the track.
Okay. Oh, you know what? Now I gotta go look it up. Yeah. So I'm gonna go look it up. Okay.
Awesome.
Elvis was it? No, I'm not gonna go into it. But
okay, so
yes,
all the things you're doing, because I know that you were working with B.E.T for a while as well, and you've done all of the things, and I feel like you're kind of living. You set out to live your dream, which is, I think, one of the reasons why you and I became friends in the first place. Yes. Because I'm all about living your authentic self. What happens when a pandemic comes along? It's like, hey, what's up, dream? Let's just visit real quick. So, how's that going for you?
You know what? Okay, so I have to preface this by saying, we understand that the pandemic has caused a lot of pain to a lot of people's families, and there's been life lost and jobs lost and the whole nine, right? So we acknowledge that, and if we could do everything all over again, we would hope that we did not have to go through this. Right. You know what I mean? With the life loss and the job loss and things like that. Now, with that said, subscription services have been some of the companies that have actually gained popularity, and business has improved during the quarantine.
Right.
Because being stuck in the house and you don't have a lot of options and there are no sports on TV and there's not a lot of new programming on TV, a lot of people started downloading, apps like UMC, if they didn't, already have it. And so we have definitely seen an increase in our subscriber base. But now, the quarantine itself did not hurt us from a production standpoint, because on all of our content acquisitions or productions, we are working anywhere from 12 to 18 months in advance.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
So our release schedule is already locked through July of 2021. You know what I mean? So, and there
so you don't have to worry about it until July.
well, so now we are starting to get back into production now, but those shows again are premiering in 2021, most of them, you know what I mean? And so, but yeah, so we were fortunate that, we didn't have a lull, where we were like, we're out of content. What do we do now? But even with that, we still were doing things to try to entertain people during the downtime. So like we did Laughs on Lockdown, which was the first stand-up comedy shows on Instagram Live. So we were doing things like that. So we did that for, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. And then, and then another company stole our idea and called it Lockdown Laughs, but I'm not going to call them out on that. But anyway, and we just let it go because we said, we weren't doing that for benefit anyway. We were just trying to entertain people while they were at home. So we didn't charge anybody, you know what I mean? And so, we were just providing free content. I wonder, is that other company that stole our name offering their content for free? Anyway, I digress. So so we did that, and then just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just
hold on.
I mean, you could Google it, but whatever. and then we started premiering new series, and so then we were doing a lot of IG lives or Zoom type events with the cast members of our shows and things like that. And we've partnered with ABFF, which is the American Black Film Festival, for a national casting call for a new sitcom that we're doing called Partners in Rhyme with MC Light and Bentley Kyle Evans. And so right now, so this show is kind of like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air meets The Odd Couple with a splash of Empire in there. But so
can I audition? Can I I'm not technically Black American, but I'm down for it.
Well, listen, no one said you had to be Black American.
That's amazing.
Now I will say this though. So the role that we're doing the national casting call for, that role is to play a high school senior, female who can act and rap, that on the show, of course, she would be under the tutelage of MC Light's character and so on and so forth.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So we're just trying to do stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Just casually,
Emma G, can you rhyme?
Badly. I have the thug attitude. Not really. But I can spit a really great chorus. So there we are.
Okay, there you go. Listen, okay, we're gonna need all that.
I'm in it. Cool. So beyond the pandemic, there's been obviously, I don't know what it's like in LA. I'm sure being a cultural mecca, similar to DC, that you guys have been hit quite hard on all sides with the Black Lives Matter movement recently, obviously with police brutality really coming to a head in the last couple of weeks with the passing. Well, I keep saying like with the passing of George Floyd. Let's be real, with the murder of George Floyd, because that's what it was. Yeah. You know, I personally have been struggling myself to be a person of color that wasn't born here, to kind of understand what my role is as a human in DC and in the States. How are things going for you guys with you know, with personally, with your business, with like the content that you guys are creating? Has there been, I mean, I'm sure there's been a lot of impact of the recent political events on you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So in terms of all that, I would say we've been on an emotional roller coaster, you know, and I mean, literally you go through all of the emotions from anger to beyond anger to sadness to, you know, being vengeful to being strategic and trying to plot and plan on what the next steps are. So, you know, and just being a Black man in America, and you know, and raising young Black men and let me say this, I am speaking as a Black man in America, but this issue is not just about Black men and young Black men. It's about Black women. It's about the Latino community. You know, it's like so, and because it's interesting because I was listening to a dialogue from a friend of mine, Ida Rodriguez, and she was speaking, and so she's half Dominican, half Puerto Rican, but she acknowledges that, you know, the slave ships from Africa stopped in the Caribbean and South America and things before they came to the States, right? So the heritage may be mixed, but it's similar. Okay. Yeah. Right. And so, and so she talks about being an Afro-Latina, right? And but then there are some people in the Latin culture that don't identify with having, you know, similar ancestors, right? And so there's a whole talk of all of that going on. And so so let me say this. So personally and professionally through UMC, you know, part of our goal is to we definitely want to be a part of the elimination of systemic racism. Point blank, period. Like, you know, our ancestors were brought here, you know, for financial gain. And even after our ancestors were freed from slavery, they implemented systems that would allow them to keep us as a lower standard, you know, within society. And this is all done purposefully, right? So it's divide and conquer. So systemic racism, we have to plant those seeds to be able to implode it, you know, from the inside, you know, and that takes things like voting. And, you know, if you think the police system is corrupt, join. How about that, right? I mean, and think about what that really means, right? And you know, if you think we can't get loans because of, you know, the system, then go into banking. You know what I mean? Like so there are areas where we can continue to pursue, where we can change the system from the inside. So myself, I'm in entertainment, right? One of the problems with Hollywood is it is not inclusive. Mm-hmm. Currently, it is not inclusive, mm-hmm. right? However, one of the things that UMC does, we say, okay, a major studio picks and chooses a handful of Black stories to tell. Mm-hmm. So UMC says, all right, over the last 10 years, we've distributed over 500 films and projects, films, documentaries, stage plays.
Wow.
We've distributed those. We mm-hmm. are producing a number of scripted and unscripted TV shows. Mm-hmm. We are licensing and acquiring, hundreds of independent projects. So when mm-hmm. you start to think about all these things, this is 1,000 Black and brown stories that weren't going to get told from mainstream Hollywood.
Right.
But we're telling those stories. So that is us getting into a position where we can control the content that we are then, providing to the general public. So, so the systemic part of the racism, we have to work on that. We need to reverse the divide and conquer. But then we also have to understand and unify. Black, brown, yellow, red, listen, and white. We have to understand what is going on and what game we're playing. And you know how they say you're not playing checkers, right? You're playing chess, right? This is all of these things that we face, whether it's colorism, mm-hmm. whether it's sexism, mm-hmm. whether it is age bias, mm-hmm. whether it's religion. These are all different ways that they try to divide us mm-hmm. so that they can control us, right? And then, lastly, as we're working on all of those things, I think we also have to find a way to love ourselves again. You know what I mean? Because we can point fingers all day and say, you did this to us, right? But if we turn around and then hate on each other, now that's what they want us to do. So that means their plan is working. But if we know that, we have to readdress how we view each other.
Right.
And so it's funny. So earlier we were talking about the Bruce Lee doc.
Right. Yes.
Yesterday.
Which I haven't seen yet because I'm terrible. But I've been quoting him apparently all week. So there we go.
So it's called Be Water. But there was a point in the documentary where he said, in the eyes of God, we all are the same. He said, it doesn't matter what we look like. It doesn't matter how we talk, what language. He said, in the eyes of God. And that the reason why that was so powerful to me was a lot of racist views are wrongly cloaked in religion.
Yes.
Right? So if you truly believe in a God, I don't care what you call your God. If you believe in a God, how can you think that hating anybody else for any reason is okay? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
No, your soapbox is great. I'm in total agreement with you, and it's something that I'm really learning about because, again, being new to the States, still relatively, I remember the first time I got referred to as a light-skinned person, and I damn near pissed myself laughing. I was like, what is that? Like, you know, and that was my introduction into colorism before, you know, visiting the Black American History Museum, was that I wasn't aware of the different ways in which people engage with brown, caramel, dark brown, and black skin tones.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. You know what? And here's the thing. I've heard people say that colorism started on the plantations because they would separate the darker skinned slaves from the lighter skinned slaves, because the lighter skinned slaves were actually relatives, because the slave owners were having sex with the slaves. So the offspring is how the lighter skinned slaves start, you know, and I won't use the terms, but it was, you know, in the field or in the house.
Yeah.
The lighter ones that were in the house were masters' kids.
Right.
Okay, but
that didn't even occur to me. Yeah,
but
that makes sense.
But this is where I call, and I don't know if we have to censor ourselves, but this is where I call bull.
You don't.
Okay, so here's where I call bullshit.
Okay.
And I'm not calling bullshit on that theory. I'm calling bullshit that's where colorism started, because that may be where the issue started amongst Black Americans, but colorism exists in every country in the world. If you go to India, it's based on class, right? The darker skinned Indians are field workers. The lighter skinned Indians are corporate or white collar workers, right? We see the same thing in the Latin communities, in the Caribbean. And so
in parts of Asia,
exactly. I mean, listen. I remember Chinese versus Japanese versus Korean versus Filipino. Okay.
Even in Vietnam, like I was there for 2 weeks before I moved here, and it's like the lighter skinned Vietnamese were considered royalty. The darker skinned were like, exactly. What are you doing in public?
So the reason why I bring that up is because it exists in every country. That means that is not something exclusive to Black Americans in slavery. You know, this has to do with the colonizers, you know, who decided that, you know, they wanted to dominate the world and take over, right? And they imposed their will, and they started a narrative every place they went that we are the dominant people, and if you don't look like us, you're inferior. And I'll take it a step further. You can Google this as well. So a lot of the colonizers come from the northern region of Europe, right? And let's call a spade a spade. A lot of those colonizers were white people, right? However, I was reading something that they actually flipped the map upside down, because there was a stigma with being higher and being able to point down at other people, right? So when you have royalty, they sit above, right?
Right.
So there are some theories out there that if you actually flip the map upside down, that what we consider north is actually south. But here's another piece of that theory. If you look on traditional maps, Europe is one of the biggest areas,
right,
on globes and on maps. And they make Africa and they make South America look fairly small.
Yeah.
Which in actuality, they are the two biggest land masses on the globe. So the maps are incorrect because they wanted to kill the psyche of people in those places. And they wanted to say, no, you are not on top. No, you are not bigger than. It's more of us than you. Think about it. I'm just saying. Now, so next time you look at a map, you're gonna be like, oh, that's crazy.
No, I'd heard parts of that because I know that Australia is the same size as North America, landmass wise. But if you look at a map,
listen, they have been feeding us lies for thousands of years.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Right. Okay, so in amongst all the bullshit, in amongst all the lies, in amongst all the the overwhelm.
Right.
The overwhelm, let's be real. How are you managing to stay so positive and active and, balancing taking the bullshit, planting a garden? How are you doing that?
Right. Well, I truly believe that if I woke up this morning, it's a good day. And, and I have been accused of being an overly optimistic person. You and
me both. You and me both. It's okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But my thing is, if you sit a glass of water in front of me and it's 50%, there's 50% liquid in this glass, I will never say, oh, that's half empty, because here's the reality. The glass could be empty. Yeah. There are a lot of people in this world that are on empty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I don't care how far away your goal or your dream seems to be. I don't care, how defeated you may feel at any given time. Stop, close your mouth, look around and observe, and you will find a whole lot of people worse off than you. You know what I mean? And that is what motivates me to be like, okay, listen, it's not the end of the world. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Like I say that all the time. Listen, we got this. We got this, right? On top of that, I will say, having a certain faith plays part in that as well, because if you don't believe in something bigger than yourself, how do you have a checks and balances? You know what I mean? So again, I'm not saying you have to believe in a religion. I'm not saying you have to believe in a God, but what are your checks and balances? So if you do something wrong, what action is going to come back at you? Like how do you feel there? What are the repercussions? That's what I'm trying to say. What are the repercussions of your actions? In my mind, the repercussions are based on the yin and the yang, or the karma, or whatever you want to call it. Where my grandmother was from, she would say, God don't like ugly. Listen, do you know how many times I heard that in my life? God don't like ugly. And when you acting ugly, stuff happens. Now,
oh, that's hilarious. Her grandma.
So, you know what I mean? So, hey, listen, straight from Mississippi, Hattiesburg, Mississippi. But so that's an old Southern proverb.
God don't like ugly.
I don't like ugly. So, but I'm just saying there has to be something keeping score, right?
Right.
I would think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that you made a point that what keeps your checks and balances. I've really noticed in my circles, at least, that this whole pandemic has been a really beautiful opportunity for people to really check themselves. The ego has to be put away. Even the money has to be put away, and we have to like really realize that actually love is what is going to get us through this. Community is what's going to get us through this. Faith is going to get us through this. But really putting aside this egotistical viewpoint that it's all me, baby.
Right. Listen, let me tell you. So it's funny you say that. During the quarantine, I've lost like 2.5 inches off my waist because I work out 3 days a week. I haven't frivolously spent money on things that I would have otherwise. So, so what I mean? So there are positives to take away from any situation. Right. And again, but that is, you and I, or is it you and me? You and me.
You and I. No, you and I, because if you take away the you and, if the sentence makes sense, if you start with an I, then you're good.
Okay, there we go. So us, we, look at it like, yes, we've been on quarantine, but like, how many songs have you written?
Oh God, I'm releasing a single every week at the moment from my Patreon.
So this doesn't have to be a bad thing.
No.
Yeah.
No, totally. How many songs have I written? No, way to put me on the hot seat. Writing all the time. It's been a really exciting opportunity for me as well, because I've really, in normal world, I would be kicking my ass off every day. I'd be busking. I'd be, doing all the things. I'm still doing all the things, but the things I'm doing now are all about planning and like thinking smarter, not harder. So you're right. It's about looking at the balance of life. So what are you working on at the moment?
Oh my goodness. So on UMC, our new #1 rated show is called Double Cross. It's about a pair of vigilante fraternal twins that are killing people that harm women.
Okay.
Oh yeah. One's a doctor and one runs the streets, but they teamed up to get it in. So that show, we have our season finale this Thursday, the 25th. Okay. We just completed another show that is currently our #2 series called A House Divided. Mm-hmm. And that series finale premiered 2 weeks ago, and the ratings have been through the roof with those. We're launching a new renovation show with Victoria Rao called Trash versus Treasure, kind of in the theme that we're talking about, right? And so she goes in and she helps low-income families renovate their living space with not a lot of money. So you'd be surprised what you can do for little.
Oh, I know. That's the life I lead.
Yeah. This
shirt cost me $2, just BG dubs.
Hey, listen, and it looks good. But that's all that matters. You know what I mean? And so we're doing things like that. We also we just started back. We were the first production in Georgia to go back to work, and that's a show that we have upcoming called Terror Lake Drive. They started production today in Atlanta, so shout out to them. And on UMC, like, we are premiering a brand new series every month this year. Currently, if you want to check out UMC and you don't know what we're about, you can go to UMC. So like Uncle Mary Charlie, UMC.TV, and you can use the promo code UMC free 30, or you can use Romeo 30, and you can get 30 free days.
That's
to check
amazing.
us out, to see what we're about, and if you like us, you can stick around, because we're only $4.99 a month, which is less than a Starbucks coffee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now tell me, is UMC just a United States thing? Is it available in Canada or New Zealand or Australia?
Right. So right now we are available in Canada, and next we will be available in the Caribbean. That's our next region we're working on, and we're going region by region. And so we hope to be in the UK and in Africa and in Australia over the next like 18 months.
Okay.
So it's a process, opening up all the geo filters and territories and things like that. But so right now it's North America, and soon the Caribbean will be added to that, and we're just gonna, keep adding territories.
That's amazing. It's one of the things that and I say this knowing full well that I probably come across this way to a lot of people, but I always look at the people that I have in my circle, right? Of which you are one. And I always marvel at like how the fuck you can fit everything in.
Right.
Like
look. So wait, I don't know if you can see that. This is my Franklin Covey. Wait, can you see? Oh, there it is. This is my Franklin Covey organizer.
Right.
I use this every day. Yes. And so I have to write everything down. So to answer your question, there is, and so between that and the calendar on my phone, like I have to write everything down, including returning phone calls, calling my mom.
I mean,
that's
I
on
feel
there.
you. Can you see my calendar?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
See,
yeah.
Like that's what mine looks like, and because if I don't write it down, it's not going to happen.
And that's like, do you program in like your meals and exercise and all that sort of stuff?
I only program meals if I am meeting someone for a meal.
Okay.
If it's just me feeding myself, that doesn't go on the calendar, because I get to that when I get to it. I know. That could be neglect. I don't know. But everything else definitely goes on there. So meetings, like I said, return phone calls, things I need to watch on TV, events,
all of the things. And just as you're talking about that.
And working out, that's on my calendar.
How often do you because I think the argument, especially as a creative, is like 30% self, 30% business, 30% creative. Is that kind of how you roll, or you're more of a business kind of dude, aren't you?
Okay.
That's the argument. I disagree with it personally.
Well,
I
think my areas overlap so much.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard for me to say, because, even though I may greenlight a show, right, a series, I'm still in the trenches with the writer, talking about storylines. So that's my creative side coming out, right? I'm still discussing with that filmmaker the music that's going to go into the show. That's my creative side, right? And technically that's my personal side as well, because music is my first love. So that is me taking off my network hat and putting on my Brett hat and being like, oh my God, what about these chords right here? Like, I don't get paid to do that. Right. That's just what I love to do. You know what I mean? So
sorry.
Yeah. No. I was just gonna say, so it all runs together for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So with UMC as the CCO,
Yes.
you're not just like, you don't outsource music. You create it all in-house.
No. So we basically outsource. I would say 95% of the music.
Okay.
When I was making reference to coming up with melodies and things for things, I was having a flashback to when I was like producing the films.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because all the films that I produced, I was, well, not all of them, but I'm saying in later on in my career, I was also the music supervisor for those same films.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
You know, just because you're not busy enough.
Right.
So, a couple more questions before we take off, and I want to say thank you again for your time. It's really good to see your face, and just to hear more of your stories and be inspired and whatnot. But I'm wondering, what is your why? This is a question that I asked Bobby Borg last night, who was on the show, and he looked at me like, wait, what? Nobody asks that question.
Right.
So my two final questions are a little bit weird and abstract. So what is your why?
My why is being a young Black boy on the south side of Chicago and sitting in the house wanting to know how can I do this, right? And so I try to set an example. My realm is entertainment, so we're talking about film, television, and music. But I try to set an example of what can be done when you are, that young Black person, that, because it feels like the information isn't given to us readily. So we have to go find the information. So for me, that's why I do interviews like this. I do panels anytime anyone asks. I will go to colleges and speak. I will go to high schools and speak. I'll do career day. And even when I'm negotiating a deal, even if I'm on the other side of the table negotiating against you, if there is something about this contract that I'm presenting to you that you don't understand, I'm going to explain it to you. And not only am I going to explain it to you, I'm going to give you examples of the different options that you have. I can say wholeheartedly, most people do not do that.
Right.
Most people in the business world want you to be less educated about the scenario so that they can have their way with you,
of course,
in the business terms. But for me, I sleep well at night knowing I'm not taking advantage of anyone. In fact, I am empowering you with information. So when you are not talking with me and you are talking with someone else, you are in a better position,
right,
to negotiate your deal or to, handle your project or whatever it is. And that is my way of trying to leave things better than I found it. So that's really my why. And I grew up on Ebony Magazine and Jet Magazine in Chicago. And I see the look on your face. You're like, what are those? Well, first of all, the look you gave me was, what are magazines? Okay, so no, but you know what? It's interesting. So the Johnson Publishing Company which started Ebony, which was the big magazine, and then Jet was the smaller one. Like, when you grew up in the, you know, the 70s and 80s and the 90s, and you saw these publications, and then Essence came along later, and you saw these publications that highlighted a lot of the things that were going on in Black America.
Mm-hmm.
And it made you say, oh, okay, because before looking at those type of stories and images, we dreamt with other people's vision. So before we realized we could do it ourselves, we wanted to, we had the same dreams as like white people. And this is what I mean by that. Arsenio Hall told a story about how when he was growing up in Cleveland, he wanted to be Johnny Carson because that's what was available, right? But then Arsenio Hall kicked the doors down and had the Arsenio Hall show.
Right.
So then people like Chris Spencer and Magic Johnson and Byron Allen, they said, we want to be Arsenio Hall. You see the difference? Like, you know, so seeing those images and seeing ourselves accomplish certain things, it made you say, oh, I can do this. So in my generation, we saw Bob Johnson and Oprah become billionaires. We saw a young kid from North Carolina, you know, who was wearing gold chains during dunk contests in the 80s, named Michael Jordan, go from that guy to being a billionaire who has the biggest shoe franchise in the world, and now he owns a team, right? In our lifetimes, we have seen Dr. Dre and Master P and Puffy and Jay-Z go from being rappers in the hood to being, you know, close to billionaires, right? And so psychologically, I don't know if people understand the impact of witnessing those things, you know, until later. You're not gonna, a lot of people aren't gonna realize the impact until they're having conversations with their kids and their kids say certain things, right? So my mom thought she would never see a Black president in her lifetime. Now, my son, the only thing he knows is, yo, we have Barack and Michelle. See how that changes the mentality, right? Now, the next generation, you know, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, we've had a woman president or vice president or whatever the next, something's about to happen. You know what I'm getting at. But I'm just saying, you know what I mean? So
2020, baby.
Oh, exactly. So all these things are happening and these monuments are coming down now, right? And now it's okay. Now, too bad it took so long, but let's acknowledge it's here now. You know, now it's okay to speak out about societal wrongs. You know what I mean? And you don't have to remain silent because you're fearful that your fans won't support you anymore. Now people are like, to hell with them fans. If they not with me, then they against me. You know what I mean? So anyway, I went off onto a tangent, but for me, that's what like Ebony and Jet magazine started for me. It gave me images to shoot for, and I was like, oh, we can do big things too.
And here you are doing all the big things. You're
I'm
amazing.
I'm trying.
You're amazing. You're amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and to connect with me again. It's been too long. Yes. I look forward to seeing you in LA soon, or if you get to DC again. And
all maybe, of the above.
I mean, right. The magic starts now.
Yes.
But to everybody who tuned in tonight, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to be awesome, spread love like it's going out of fashion. Of course, be your own kind of superhero, and don't forget to call your mum. You are your own.